Chris and Dan show. Thank you so much. Many of you guys are fans of Dr. Joe Elid. He's been on the show maybe 2 or 3 times. Well, a little
Ver-
more. He's been on my channel too. We've interviewed Dr. McCullough together.
Very interesting guy. Both of
Yeah,
them, Dr.
I see.
Joe, Peter McCullough, both interesting, but Dr. Joe a little more personable,
Hmm.
both in terms of personality as well as accessibility.
Well, he is the one who I'm trying to find the context of this. He's the one who sent me this. Actually, he sent me this with no zero tag, just the. So it's called Safe Zones in the Disaster, and we're gonna watch it, and then we're gonna go through like what we think, because Chris and I actually talk about this a lot, and so does Dr. Lead. I'm not as I used to be more doom and gloom than you, but I didn't know you yet. It was in college. I was very much like, this conspiracy theory's got to be. And now after COVID, I'm like, I see a lot of people like kind of jumping on that bandwagon that I somewhat jumped off, but I'm kind of get back on when needed. This
So,
is one of those things. Like, eventually, a disaster will happen. All right, we just don't know when. Our lifespans are very short.
sure. And I'm the exact opposite of you. I never even considered any, you know, problems or things I need to worry about, whether it be government or climate or whatever the case might be. I just didn't bother with those things up until recently. Maybe a year prior to COVID, just started
I
being more and
remember
more
you. Yeah, I remember
concerned
you telling
with
me.
all of these things.
Well, you told me, and now it's 2022 for those watching in the future, September 2022. Chris told me back in 2018, this country's headed for a civil war. And I was like, "Pfft, Chris, you're ridiculous, man." And then sure enough, the chatter starts increasing like every year to the point where
Yep.
it's like some people are like actually Googling this. Um,
Well, writing
did
articles
now
on it,
did
New
you
York Times and everybody.
did you make up your mind on your own, or was it like just reading different opinion pieces and
No, it's
agreeing
on
with them?
my own. No, it's on my own. Nobody was talking about Civil War when I was talking
Nobody. So
about that.
you came to this conclusion on your own.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you need to buy that camera and start doing solo videos on this Chris and Dan show thing. Like,
Well,
imagine if you would have documented that, time stamped on YouTube, 2017.
sure. Well,
Dude, you'd be a freaking G. We would think you're AI for real.
people would just think you're nuts, though, when you come out with that stuff. My wife looks at me like I'm nuts sometimes. My sister was funny. We're at Knott's Berry Farm. This was a few years ago,
Hmm.
and she goes, "I owe you an apology." I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "Because the stuff you used to say was just out there, and now it's all true." I was like,
I
"Mm,
remember you were telling me about her, and then over the years it turned into, she's not that wrong.
yeah."
Uh, I kind of jump. I'm like quantum physics in that regard. I could be both positive and negative. All right, here we go. Enough about us.
All
Good
right.
evening, folks. This is the third time I have made this video. The safest zones that could be predicted based on the disaster most likely to unfold based on all the evidence. How do you know where to go? What tells you which areas are safe more than others? The answer to these questions require risk analysis for before, during, and after the disaster.
Chris, I expect you to write your notes. And your sister, shout out to her. She's watching.
Hope
What's her name?
April.
Shout out April. Ah, wife of Stan?
This is correct.
I finally connected. I know you told me before, but like now it's in my actual head. All
All
right,
right.
cool, cool, cool.
Up until the main event, the climate will continue getting more extreme and hostile. Volcanoes will begin their uptick, and the sun is likely to take out power to the world as Earth's magnetic field continues to weaken. During the disaster, there are the tsunamis and cosmic radiation to consider,
Fun.
and afterwards, there is the new climate based on new polar positions and the need to rebuild. For example, during the disaster and perhaps for a bit afterwards, having underground protection is very favorable,
So,
especially
hey,
since it
pause it.
appears previous
I think I
civilizations.
missed something. So, this disaster, how did this disaster come to be? Is this the pole switching?
I think so. Yeah, electromagnetic field of the Earth is weakening, and it will
Okay,
cause the poles to flip. Yeah.
which is very important to us.
And you know what, man? I interviewed a doctor today. Remember when I said I had to go because I got another podcast? So I interviewed this doctor who it's the second time now, and we started talking about mTOR, and it's like a whole hour. But towards the
What's
end,
wait, what's mTOR? I'm sure anybody listening to you is going to wonder, and I don't
mamma-
even know.
mammalian target of rapamycin. So if you guys go Google that.
Okay.
It's really fascinating. But anyways, it's a molecule that basically acts like a organelle or like a cell, but it's just a molecule.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So, anyways, he was saying that the way we've been taught biology is like kind of foolish. I mean, he gets why because they had to oversimplify it to get the fundamentals in our head. But when you study it at his level, because he's a doc, just like Doctor Elite, actually, he's a chemist and a doctor, like
Hmm.
a clinician. So they can combine like once everything's chemical, man. So once you get to the cellular level, he said the inside of a cell is so dense. It's not like what you see on the book, where like it's a space.
Hmm.
No, it's dense as shit. There's like a million things floating around through there. Some of them proteins, some enzymes, some nutrients, some viruses. Like there's all kinds of shit happening. And then you have the nucleus, and in there you do have other shit happening too. So he's saying at the end of the day, what it's all about is just ions, polarization, opposites attract. That's what kind of keeps everything together in our body. That's what brings life. So it's really scary to think about the Earth's electromagnetic field weakening
But
just from that, from a cellular level alone. Never mind a universal
sure,
level.
if the physics of a body in the atmosphere acts the same as a cell, certainly. But just what we already know, right, in terms of what that electrical field does to us, it protects us from the sun and from asteroids, right? Um,
Right.
that alone is a problem. It also retains our atmosphere in terms of water and everything else. That's what happened to Mars, right? It lost its atmosphere because it lost its electric field, and its water escaped.
Yeah.
So it does a lot for us. So if this thing's true, it's going to be very problematic.
Yeah. Tsunamis, all kinds of stuff. All right. Let's continue.
Nations use these
Relaxing.
areas to survive in numerous places across the world. During the disaster, elevation is paramount. No continents will escape both the initial tsunamis and the
Get
sloshback.
up to Big Bear.
This is especially critical the closer you are to a coastline. Population density is critical both before and after the main event. When we lose power, the world will quickly enter survival mode just a
Hey,
couple of days or
pause again, please. Sorry, this is going to take a while. So you notice where it's white there up here in the top northern part where
Yeah.
Montana is? Is that why all the millionaires and billionaires are buying property up there?
I don't know. You tell me. Look, this is where I used to be and where Chris is,
Southern
somewhere around here.
California. Yep.
Like probably right here. And then
Yep.
this is where I'm at. I mean, it's not white either.
Well,
Like,
and you're right there on the Gulf.
yeah, I'm far from this, but and there's no waves
Not
here. So
that
yeah,
far.
it's
Probably
like an
what?
hour, hour.
Yeah, 100 miles at most,
Yeah,
right?
100 miles. Yeah, but Trump built that wall, so I don't think it could get past
The
here.
water can't get past the wall, the
Yeah,
tidal
I don't think
waves?
so. I think that's the real reason why he did it.
Keep the tidal
So
waves
yeah,
out.
so okay, interesting, man. Yeah, good question though. I don't know.
maybe a
All
few
right.
weeks later. And obviously, after the main event, the more people around, the larger the risk of adverse interactions with other hungry, desperate people. The new pole positions and
Adverse reactions. Wow.
From hungry, desperate people. Sounds great.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts so far? Like you were in the earlier video, you said
This
about
is
anarchy.
this is
Uh
so again. Hopefully, I'm not predicting the future as well with the civil strife that's going on. But I've been saying for like 3 years now, I want to live on property with its own resources for food and water.
yeah.
Right? And I don't live on either of those right now. If water were a problem, I'd die of dehydration. So would my
Sure.
family. Same thing with food. So for 3 years now, I've been really stressing, and my wife says no, We got to move to somewhere where we have food and water, or at least
Putting Julie on the spot, huh?
yeah. So, as a matter of fact, we literally got in an argument about it today. So I just keep telling her I want to
Yeah.
move somewhere where there's food and water, and this guy's just helping me along with that argument.
See,
Right?
show this to Julie. And by the way, I thought coming from where you're at, when I lived here for about a year now, over a year, I think it's like I feel like I'm out in the countryside, and when I look on that map, it shows it's not that much different. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just way more red where you're at, but at that point, like if you're already surrounded by it, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Sure. Well, where you're at least you have a resource of water. You could get
Yeah.
water if the transportation of water stopped, right? The flow of water
Yeah.
stopped through your pipes.
Yeah.
I can't where I'm at,
Yeah.
so it's a problem.
All right, let's go. Julie, hope you're taking notes.
Yeah, there you go.
Expected
You tell
climate
her.
coming with them are
Otherwise,
one of
this
the
is
most
the meeting
critical
place.
aspects of this question as well. In this equation, surviving the first two legs of the disaster doesn't matter if you wind up at the South Pole. All of these things must be considered.
Dr. Joe watches some strange things on his free time, I'll tell you that. He watches this stuff like all the time, and he's like knows
It's his
every
version of
detail.
Star Trek.
No, but he believes all of this. And I
I
actually do
understand.
too, if given enough time.
All right.
The evidence certainly there.
While you can easily check population
Well,
density for yourself, and you could work
hang
a bit
on, time out. So the evidence is there for yes, polars shifting. That's certainly there. I think there's evidence of like 8 times it's happened throughout the history of the planet.
And there's
Right.
evidence of the electromagnetic field
Weakening.
weakening.
Okay, but there is no evidence to say that it's imminent in the near future.
No.
That's
No.
yeah. All right, that's all I wanted
But
to
it's
say.
it is inevitable.
At some point, right? Because it's happened 8 times and it's going to happen again.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's the same thing like Yellowstone, inevitable.
If given enough time, yeah.
bit harder to find a safe space with underground protection.
What happened? You hit pause?
Yeah, my mic got disconnected. Too much pop.
Okay.
StreamYard gods don't like us.
Here are some other basics in map form. But first, here's the legend to what we're about to see. Arrows are the tsunamis expected from the tilt. Red would be the initial run-up from inertia. Yellow is the sloshback. But remember, there is always the potential for other tsunamis based on land rising
This guy
and
did it
sinking.
all.
We'll see a good example of that when we get to Africa. Blue ovals are where it will be too cold, either when we
By the way, this guy whose channel this is, because Duck
Mhm.
got me into him. He's a chemist by training, and he helped make some of the best-selling blockbuster drug molecules, like the chemistry behind it. So he's
Really?
not some conspiracy nut on YouTube. Yeah,
Well, I don't think one's exclusive of the other necessarily.
true, but he's got logic
Sure, he's educated.
more than 99% of people.
He's an educated individual who has rationale behind his arguments.
And must have done several rounds of calculations in his head
hmm
because he did all this stuff. Look, check this out. It's crazy.
lose power before the main event or afterwards in the new climate. Darker blue rectangles
And what he's doing is putting himself out there, time stamping it. He's doing what Chris Hopper should have done: time stamp that shit for when the
Sure.
world ends. Look, we're all dead, but look at AI.
Will
check
we
it
have
out.
access to this?
No, but the AI will. Somehow they'll evolve. If we merge enough, there's gonna be something happening, but we won't see
So
it.
I don't know if you'll have all the records may get wiped out, right? Which might be
Yeah.
great for those in serious debt.
are going to show the safest zones given all
Build
that
back
can
better.
be predicted, and the orange stars show where the crust is most likely to be an issue, either from volcanoes, earthquakes, or expected land rising or sinking.
Wow.
We'll begin with North America.
You're
Since
fucked.
Greenland
Look at California. Fuck. Look at that.
Yeah, it's almost entirely gone.
is expected to tilt south and wind up at the equator, the waters will initially be surging northward, even though it's really the land moving south into those areas. That's bad news for the center of the United States and the Gulf of Mexico,
Ooh.
likely to run up through the middle of the country. My head goes to the
Hey,
future
pause.
U.S. Navy map of the
So hopefully these blue blocks are good spots because I'm thinking about moving into one of
No, he's saying like that.
those blue
That's where
boxes
it's
are awful.
That's gonna like compress and make mountains, like new mountain ranges right there.
Oh, so I don't want to live there either, huh?
That's what I understand.
All right.
Check it out. Let's see. He's gonna tell us right now. Let's go
All
back
right.
a little bit. Or was it right here? Yeah.
Yeah.
America. Since Greenland is expected to tilt south and wind up at the equator, the waters will initially be surging northward, even though it's really the
Yeah.
land moving
That's what the
south
arrows are.
into those areas.
The land
Yeah.
That's
moving
bad
south.
news for the center of the United States and the Gulf of Mexico, likely to run up through the middle of the country. My head goes to the future U.S. Navy map of the country. And the Atlantic coast angle to the ocean isn't so great either. Don't underestimate the sloshback potential of the lakes either, especially Hudson and the Great Lakes. It is too cold right now in the far north for most people to live without power, something we expect to see before the main event. And the west coast has the highest earthquake, volcano, and land sink potential.
Hmm.
The key safe zone is on the eastern range of the Rockies, what I call the new Valley of the Sun. And while I can't guarantee the East Appalachian and extended region will make it out of the initial wave, can't rule it out either. Definitely have population density.
Oh my god, this guy cracks me up. Part of the reason why, I mean, I believe he's smart and he's so smart that it's scary. But what he's saying, like, so matter of fact, is like hilarious to me.
Sure. And he's saying the blue box there in the middle that encompasses the united part of the United States, that's
Yeah.
the safe zone.
Well, he says beyond that, east of there is the safe zone. Yeah.
Well,
Because that
no,
might be like where it compresses.
he's saying the Appalachians, which includes Tennessee, there's going to be serious sloshback. So that don't sound too safe for
Yeah, that's
initial
right here.
survival. That's where you would go after, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Initial survival, that's not where you want to be. So initial
Should we
survival.
go back a little?
That's the way I'm understanding. Initial survival, he's saying, is there in the middle, and
Here, let's go
future
this way.
survival.
Let's go like to 307, just a little bit back.
All
Don't
right.
underestimate the sloshback potential of the lakes either, especially Hudson and the Great Lakes. It is too cold right now in the far north for most people to live without power, something we expect to see before the main event. And the west coast has the highest earthquake, volcano, and land sink potential. The key safe zone is on the eastern range of the Rockies, what I call the new Valley of the Sun.
That's the
And while I
united
can't
box.
guarantee the
Mhm.
East Appalachian and extended region
That's-
will make it
that's-
out of the initial
that's-
Yeah,
wave,
this Appalachian.
can't rule it
Yeah.
out either. Definitely have population density concerns in that area, though. South America sees the same wave patterns, with the initial wave
So
going
hang on,
north
pause
and
there.
the
So
slosh
if I
coming-
understand him correctly, he's saying both of those zones will be where you want to be after
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, the Appalachian one is there's so many people on the East Coast, they're all going to be heading there.
Yeah, all these guys. And then here you have less competition because, well, it's less
It's
dense
less
and like
populated throughout there.
a lot of these people would have been dead already.
Yeah,
That's what
and
he's-
then
what
and
he's saying.
either direction, east or west, there's just not that many people
Yeah.
that would have survived in those
Yeah.
regions.
Yeah. Dr. Joe, don't move there yet,
extended
though.
region will make it out of the initial wave. Can't rule it out either. Definitely have population density concerns in that area, though. South America sees the same wave patterns, with the initial wave going north
Oh.
and the slosh coming south. Central portions of the west coast are likely to have the greatest earthquake activity. I didn't mark the radiation concern of the South Atlantic anomaly to the East Coast countries, but that is a problem. One that is largely outweighed, however, by the fact that the new South Pole is likely to freeze this area. Regions in the now southern Andes would have the best chance of surviving the event, and they will be closer to the new equator. Those regions, however, may have cold concerns in the before period after power is lost. Africa is one of the axes of the tilt, so its tsunamis are likely to be less intense, unless, of course, land rises in the Atlantic, a very high possibility, in which case the West Coast is going to get utterly obliterated by the water displacement. The East African rift over the LLSVP is likely to rise and produce tremendous volcanic activity. And to the east of that, the Indian Ocean sloshback
Time to move
will be one
back
of
to
the worst
Nigeria
we've
for
seen.
many of our
Not to mention that they can say
students.
goodbye to their
Shout out to everyone in Nigeria. No wahala.
warm climate, with Indonesia likely to become the new North Pole. Best chance is at the climatological boundary just south of the Sahara Desert, in the highest elevation one could find there. Europe, kind of a tough one. It's surrounded by water. The Italian, Greek, and German volcanic complexes are very
Oh, yeah,
troublesome,
they're fucked.
not to mention the earthquake potential near the Mediterranean.
Romania looks safe. Might need to get my citizenship.
It's not in the blue box.
True. Maybe Romania is fucked by the Black Sea.
Yeah.
Much of the north gets too cold now for life without power for many people, and the population density is off the charts in Europe. Some remote areas of the mountainous zones, and perhaps extending down to Spain as well, I could see that as an argument for a safe zone here, especially those with underground potential. Those are the best bet. Australia and New Zealand. Coastal regions are scary because of that same being surrounded by water. There's tremendous earthquake and volcano potential in New Zealand, and the northern areas nearer the already active islands of Oceania have a very strong earthquake and volcano risk. The largest initial tsunamis hitting Western Australia rather than Eastern Australia, so we are guessing that the eastern high elevations away from people are your best bet there, although survivors will almost certainly exist somewhere in the west as well. Yes, this is a lot to consider, but break it up into that before, during, and after, and start with the population density. No matter what else favors your location, downtown anywhere is a bad idea. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe,
We tend to
everyone.
agree.
So we don't. Wait.
I think downtown Yuma's nice.
We don't need any kind of disaster for that last statement to be true currently.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Pre, during, and after. This is pre.
Oh, did he say pre?
Yeah, before,
Yeah.
during, and after.
Downtown anywhere is a
Start
no-go.
there, he said. Don't be in a dense place.
Yeah, well, it's not just because of density, but just a lot of reasons why downtown anywhere right now is horrible.
Oh, right now, yeah. But most of it is still due to density.
Yeah.
So, anyways, now that you're depressed, what?
I'm not depressed. Like I said, I mean, natural disasters, which of course this would be. There's just no way to predict them, right? I mean, what can they do with tornadoes? I think it's 10 minutes. What can they do with earthquakes? I think it's 30 seconds for earthquakes and
It's like 30
tsunamis.
seconds. Yeah.
So
No, tsunami's more. Tsunami's more, but earthquakes, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Tsunami have like 20 minutes at least.
yeah. Okay, yeah. It depends
Even
on
for
where
the
it occurs.
closest places. If the
True.
farthest, like a
True.
day in advance.
Okay, earthquakes,
Yeah.
right? 30 seconds. So you're right about tsunamis. Because it's an earthquake that causes it, depending on where it occurred in the ocean. You know, it could be hours to where you are before you get hit by the tsunami. So you're right. But tornadoes, earthquakes, great examples of how you just can't predict when these things are going to occur. It's too random. And I just don't think the evidence is there for this to predict it anywhere in the near future.
It's too random until you watch his videos and others like it that say we are plus or minus 1,000 years from a 200,000 year cycle where this will repeat. So you could be already over the time when it's supposed to happen again.
So from what you said,
behind it.
I'm going to restate what you said to make sure I understood it correctly. So what you're saying is these polar shifts happen every 200,000 years.
I don't know the exact number,
but that's what it sounded like what you said. Every 200,000 years, and right now we're 1,000 years plus or minus from another.
We're in that range plus or minus 1,000, so we could be into it already, or we could. I mean, it's just get best guesses at that point on that time scale,
right?
When the human lifespan is like 80, right? So
we're within 2,000 years of this occurring.
You're within the realm of probability, and nobody knows exactly the number. And when you factor in the human lifespan, the probability becoming in your favor, you're not going to encounter this.
Right.
But we're in the realm of possibility.
Sure. So it should happen within the next 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Worst case or best case scenario within 2,000 years.
Something like that. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but everyone is subscribed to that channel.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So that's kind of my point. I don't know if this is something to worry about or not. I mean, they're saying the same thing about a major earthquake in California that we're well beyond when that should occur, right? Like that's a 1,000-person killer minimum, right? Kind of earthquake,
right?
So Should that be something I worry about every night when I go to sleep? Hell no. Right?
Yeah.
Or what about Yellowstone?
Yeah.
That's a
Scary as shit.
that's a global killer. Even if it's a small one, it's a mini state killer,
Yeah.
right? Even a small Yellowstone event would cause a nuclear winter for like a year or two for many states.
Right. Right.
So
It shows you how insignificant we are, really, in the grand scheme of things.
yeah, I don't know if it would. I think nuclear winter is not correct, but I saw some map where a small event in Yellowstone, it's like many states, everybody's dead, and
Mhm.
then there's another layer
Oh yeah,
where
I saw
you're in
that.
trouble, and then
Yeah.
finally you're safe outside of this. And it was like
Yeah.
1,000 miles in all directions of Yellowstone you had to be out of.
Yeah, I know. Something's gonna get us, or highest likelihood is
We get
uh
ourselves,
you just die for
or
no
we
reason.
or we just get ourselves.
Yeah, we get
World
ourselves. Much more
World War
likely.
III or some crazy thing.
Yeah, there you go. So, anyways, like, subscribe, comment, share, and let us know what you think. Catch y'all later. Bye bye.
Thank you for watching, everybody.